so much for being here today. It is so lovely to see you all. Being a webinar, we have the joy of tuning in from many different Aboriginal lands today, which is so fantastic. I am speaking to you today from Gadigal land, and throughout the past few months, I've actually had the pleasure of presenting this particular project on many different Aboriginal lands. And what I really love doing is spending the time learning something new about the land that I am presenting on. So today I'm presenting from my home. So I'm going to share something from my local area. If you have ever enjoyed the Coogee to Bondi walk in Sydney, you may have spied these like really beautiful marine like fish and jellyfish carved into the footpath. And I have loved them for years and years. And someone recently told me that they're actually replicas of real Indigenous marine life rock carvings from around the area. And that just made me really happy. So I wanted to share that new fact with you today. And I encourage you all to research the lands that you're tuning in from today or present from any day and pay my respects to elders past and present, and also extend that acknowledgement to any Aboriginal people joining us here today. Bit of housekeeping to begin with. This session is being recorded and it will be made available on our YouTube channel and our website after this session. Now we've muted everyone to avoid any background noise. We've turned off your cameras so that we can have a better connection, and we will have a Q&A at the very end. So please pop your questions into the Q&A function and we will hopefully try and answer as many as we can at the end. So to kick us off, I am going to hand it over to Magali Wardle.
Thanks very much, Matilda. Hi, everyone. My name is Magali Wardle, and I'm the Acting Director of NABERS. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. Maybe we'll just move to the next slide, please, Matilda. So, as you probably know, NABERS has been rating buildings for over 25 years, and the NABERS Energy Rating is our flagship product, with literally thousands of buildings getting an energy rating in the past couple of decades. One of our strategic goals at NABERS is all around evolution. We really want to make sure that our products continue to be relevant and impactful as the world changes around us. This is why we're updating our energy rating in 2030. Today's webinar is an opportunity for us to share our proposal for how we want to update the energy rating, specifically in terms of the way that we compare energy sources. The proposal is based on conversations we've had with all of our stakeholders, including many of you who are online today. We're now formally consulting on the proposed update, and we want to make sure everybody understands what it means for them. We also want to make sure that the implementation of the update is done in a way that works for you while still achieving that aim of keeping NABERS energy ratings relevant and impactful. We just move to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our consultation is now open. The consultation paper has been published. You'll be glad to hear it's only about 5 or 6 pages long. It's not going to take you several days to read it. The consultation closes at 5 p.m. on the 12th of December. So you've still got a few weeks to have a read through and let us know what you think. And yeah, we really encourage you to be a part of shaping the future of the NABERS energy rating tool. I'm now going to hand back to Matilda, who's going to take you through some more detail about the proposed NABERS Energy Update and the consultation process around that. And then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So please feel free to start putting your questions into the chat and the Q&A as they come to you, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar today. Thanks, Matilda.
Thank you so much, Magali, and good afternoon, everyone. It's just so lovely to see you all here today. I'm really excited to present this project to you. My name is Matilda Martin, and if we haven't met yet, I am the Energy Updates lead at NABERS and looking after this particular consultation process. Today, we will be running through the NABERS Energy Updates consultation for 2030. So I'll basically be running you through the consultation paper that's been published. So I'll be introducing the proposal items, I'll be sharing the impact, the feedback that we've heard so far, the timeline for implementation, and the next steps. We'll then, at the end of the session, have a Q&A. We've got the amazing Ron Polito with us here today, who will be moderating the Q&A and keeping an eye on those questions to see if there's actually any he can answer easily throughout the webinar too. I'm going to start this section of the webinar by taking us back to the very beginning to try and understand how we currently calculate NABERS Energy Star ratings and why there's a need for an update in 2030. So starting off, the NABERS Energy Rating Tool is an energy efficiency tool. So the NABERS Energy Star Rating helps building managers and owners compare the operational performance of their buildings. And to calculate the NABERS Energy Star Rating, we currently use carbon emissions. So where we take the energy consumption of a building and multiply all those different energy sources, such as electricity or gas, by the relevant emissions factors for each different state. And this, in combination with accounting for sector-specific factors like hours of operation, for example, means that we've been able to meaningfully compare the energy efficiency of buildings across the country for a really long time. But if we use carbon emissions to compare buildings, what happens when the emissions factors change over time due to increasing renewables in the grid? So before 2020, we really didn't have to think about this too much because the electricity grid mix was fairly consistent. But then the grid began to decarbonize, and what a wonderful problem to have. In response to this, in 2021, we began updating the emissions factors for the NABERS Energy Star Rating and committed to doing that every 5 years to ensure that the star rating was still giving meaningful comparisons between buildings. And the most recent update was done in July this year, and our next update is then in 2030. But projections tell us that our grids will be a lot greener by then. If NABERS continues using emissions factors, this shift could create a major challenge when electricity emissions start trending towards zero. Energy ratings may no longer reflect how energy efficient a building actually is, only what type of energy it actually uses. So this creates like a really distorted picture. One example is that we could have a really inefficient all-electric building being powered by near zero emissions. That building may start to receive 6 stars, while we might have a really efficient mixed fuel building, and that building would start to receive 0 stars simply because we would be comparing some emissions with 0 emissions. And this means that the NABERS Energy Rating Tool may no longer provide valuable or meaningful reflection of the energy efficiency of a building. So we need to move away from using emissions to calculate the star rating. In response to all of this, NABERS has put forward a proposal in our public consultation paper. The scope of this proposal is focused on the NABERS Energy Star Rating calculation only. So things like NABERS energy reports, the renewable energy indicator, refrigerants or time of use factors are out of scope for this particular consultation. The first item is item 1 of the proposal, NABERS energy rating to compare all energy sources equally. So this means that electricity, gas, LPG and diesel will be assessed based on their energy content rather than emissions factors. So for example, 1 megajoule of electricity and 1 megajoule of gas would be treated the same in the rating calculation. Item 1 means that we're able to compare energy sources fairly, so reflecting Australia's cleaner electricity grid. It also aligns with stakeholder preference for simplicity and transparency. We're also able to ensure that gas-using buildings are rated on efficiency and not penalised for emissions alone. And we keep the NABERS energy ratings focused on meaningful energy efficiency comparisons. Item 2. Implement the update across all building types and jurisdictions simultaneously. So implementing at the same time ensures that there's consistency and there's fairness across the program. It simplifies that messaging and planning for stakeholders, many of whom have a national presence. And it concentrates the impact within one single period. So rather than staging the update for different sectors or jurisdictions, which could introduce further complexity. And then we've got item 3. NABERS proposes implementing this update in 2030. Now, in the consultation paper, you will see that there is a planned review in 2027 to assess the readiness for earlier implementation in 2028. Now, the rationale here is that stakeholders have asked for at least 3 to 4 years' notice to support planning, budgets, upgrades. Some organisations may be ready earlier. This is what we've heard. And the 2027 review allows for flexibility here. So ultimately, this timeline supports a smoother transition while maintaining confidence in the rating system. Impact. Now, every time there is an update, there is, of course, an impact. So what can we expect in 2030? This graph here is in the consultation paper and it illustrates the indicative impact across the country. So it shows how ratings are expected to shift with this update in 2030, focusing on changes of 0.5 stars or more. Now, this analysis, of course, like most analysis, comes with some caveats. We have taken 2023 rating data and put that through the 2030 calculator to see the difference between the results from 2023 to 2030. So these results are, of course, then static, and they also wildly assume that nothing changes with that asset between 2023 and 2030, which we all know is incredibly unlikely. So real impacts to these buildings will likely be much smaller as improvements happen over time. The differing impacts across the different jurisdictions is a reflection of the current differences in emissions factors across the country because state-based emissions factors are currently used to calculate the star rating. You can see that Victoria sees the biggest swings due to higher gas use and historically higher electricity emissions. All of these impacts have been actually personally presented to many, many stakeholders over the last handful of months. And we've been told that not only is there really broad understanding and acceptance, but there are many plans already in place for upgrades. And actually, lots of stakeholders are already using the NABERS prediction tools to understand that building level impact. Importantly, the average rating does not change. You can also do your own indicative impact analysis using our prediction tools that can be found on the NABERS website under rating tools. These calculators are really cool to use. You can enter all your building details and you can then refer to the predicted 2030 scenario 2 results, which would show you how this update would indicatively impact your building. In terms of feedback, we have been speaking with a lot of stakeholders. We've reached over 500 individuals through conferences, webinars, and a lot of one-on-one direct engagement. And that's just in the last handful of months. What we've been hearing is that there's really strong support for awarding low energy, low emissions buildings. That this proposal, or this proposed update, I should say, aligns with organisational sustainability goals, that there is a preference for energy content over emissions factors for clarity, that industry needs 3 to 4 years notice for planning and upgrades, that there's an importance in retaining that legacy rating capability in our NABERS rating tools for financial and leasing standards. A simultaneous update across sectors and jurisdictions is preferred. And lastly, there is this really broad understanding on the impact and that most stakeholders are prepared for this impact with upgrade plans. In terms of the timeline from today, the timeline for the NABERS Energy Update is that stakeholders are asked to submit their responses to this consultation paper by 5 p.m. on Friday, the 12th of December, 2025. In 2026, which is just around the corner, terrifyingly, recommendations will be taken to our governance committee, the NABERS National Steering Committee, and if endorsed, the update for 2030 will then be announced. In 2027, industry readiness will be assessed to determine whether an earlier implementation in 2028 is feasible. And then finally, the update will be implemented in 2028 or 2030, depending on the outcome on that readiness review. So, next steps. For us, it's really about you being able to reach out to us with any questions. We are here to help you understand this and help with anything that you may need. We also ask that you share the paper with your networks. The more responses we get, the better. And to submit any responses by the 12th of December 2025. Now that sort of brings us to the end of the formal presentation part of this section. I know that I've put an hour in for this, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough time for a Q&A, and also that you could maybe have some more time back in your calendars afterwards. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will hand over to Ron to facilitate any questions if any questions have come in.
Yes, so we've had a few. I've just published one, and there's another one about the API that I will take. So while I answer the API one, Matilda, maybe you just want to double check that I fully addressed the question
Great.
there on the Victorian buildings.
Excellent.
So
I'll do that.
there's a question, are there any plans to add the indicative results for 2030 to the API? So not at the moment. It's something that could potentially be done in the future. And what I would suggest for everyone who doesn't know what the API is or has more questions about the API, we've got a launch event on the 4th of December. So go ahead and register to that. We'll have a bit more information there. But just to add to that as well, if there is a lot of interest to have some of the indicative results to the API, there are definitely some things in plan for some future enhancements to the API, and that could be one. So for example, making an API for the prediction tool.
We love the API.
Just double checking with you, Matilda, the question on Victorian buildings. Is there anything you want to add to that, or you think that covers it?
That covers it, but if anyone would like to reach out for sort of a deeper dive into jurisdictional impact or portfolio impact, we so encourage that. So you can reach out to us via the NABERS inbox and we can have a one-on-one meeting too.
Thank you. So we've also got another question, and the question is, how will this update support electrification?
That is a good question. So this update supports like energy efficiency by keeping the ratings fair because, we want buildings that have a little bit of gas or are using gas efficiently to still get a reasonable comparison of performance and not just get 0 stars because they use gas. While also acknowledging that an energy metric will inherently sort of give a little bit of a nudge towards electrification because heating or appliances that are electric in buildings do tend to be more efficient than gas. But we do have the renewable energy indicator, which is now very largely being used for that communication piece around electrification and renewables.
And that might also be a good segue to another question, partially related. They want to understand how this update is not discouraging moving away from gas to electricity by making gas and electricity usage equal.
Sorry, I actually just lost you there, Ron, for a sec. Could you repeat the question?
Oh, no.
No,
So the question
my
is,
apologies, that's me.
in general, supporting the updates, but they want to understand how this update is not discouraging moving away from gas to electricity by making gas and electricity usage equal.
Excellent. I might pass to Magali if that's okay.
I think Matilda just answered that in the previous question. So, traditionally NABERS ratings have always been technology agnostic. And so by treating energy sources equally, we are essentially allowing building owners to make the most practical choice for their buildings. That being said, it is true that using electrical appliances for your heating and cooling needs is generally more energy efficient than using gas. And so if building owners want their buildings to be more energy efficient and have lower utility bills, that's the correct path to go down. But we don't want to like unfairly penalize buildings that use a small amount of gas by them receiving a 0-star rating, because that's just not meaningful. So hopefully that answered the question. If not, feel free to send us an email and we'll try and answer the question in a different way.
Thanks for that. And I'm going to ask a question that I think is also related, but let me know if you did address it, because I think it also covers the your mentioning of the renewable energy indicator. But the question is energy efficiency alone important for users? Will this disconnect the rating from environmental or affordability performance?
I'll pass that to Mags too, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, as Matilda mentioned, every NABERS energy rating now also includes the renewable energy indicator, which gives a detailed breakdown of the different energy sources on site, whether they be electricity on site, fossil fuels, or even on-site renewable electricity or purchased renewable electricity. So I think that does address that kind of emissions lens that users also still require for their building ratings. In terms of that affordability performance, I mean, the NABERS energy rating is a measure of energy efficiency. So the less energy you use, the lower your energy bills and the more affordable it is. So hopefully that's answered to your question.
I think those are the closely related questions. So I'll go to another one that's come through. So the question is about the energy report. So the energy report was mentioned as not being included in the potential update. Does that mean the same info will be retained in this report as it currently is? So for example, including emissions and all of that.
That's the plan, yes.
All right, and we've got another question. Are there any plans to make change to the way OREG consumption, so on-site renewable energy generation consumption, is included in ratings? Is this separate to the current consultation?
This is separate. Yep, so no plans to change how we currently treat on-site renewable energy generation as part of this consultation.
Thanks. And we had two questions related to that. I think that addresses it. We've got a question here. So states, it's about the jurisdiction. So states are really different in their progress to a clean energy grid. Wouldn't implementing this so soon and nationally incentivize the continuation of fossil fuel energy use, including gas, for longer in states that still rely heavily on coal and gas? They're concerned it's a bit preemptive.
Do you want me to take that one, Matilda?
Thank you. I was trying to find my unmute button then. Thank you.
I mean, I think the short answer to this is that we've done a lot of modeling about a whole lot of different scenarios, including like a more of a staged approach for different jurisdictions. And we've shared that during our initial rounds of consultation. And what we've heard from actually government and industry is a preference to keep things as simple as possible when we do our NABERS Energy Update and make those changes nationally. So that's why we've put that forward as the preferred option. So I think yeah, it's not what we've found is that it's not going to incentivize longer term use of fossil fuel in some of those states that are slower to decarbonize, because there's still benefits from moving to a fully electric system because of the energy efficiency benefits that you get as well.
Thank you. So feel free to keep shooting those questions through. We've got another one. And the other one is, why are you not considering time of use or refrigerants?
That is a good question. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am. So there is actually some separate projects going on at NABERS. There's a separate time of use focused project that actually started at the beginning of July this year to flesh out and research how time of use can be considered in NABERS ratings. So if you want to reach out to us to know more about that, please do so via the NABERS inbox and we'll connect you with the right team. In terms of refrigerants, there's also some early investigations underway into optimizing refrigerants. So again, if you want to be connected with that team, just shoot us an email and we'll make sure that you can talk to the right people.
And another question. So the question is, what are you doing to help prepare the industry?
We've been doing a lot of talking, but we do have the prediction tools, which I mentioned in my presentation as well, which really helps industry be able to like map out that sort of asset by asset impact. There's this sort of big focus from us as well is that, you know, industry need enough time to prepare. So that's why we are actually consulting so early. And so I guess that's part of it too. We do have our consultation paper is published and that is online, so everyone has access to that. And this webinar as well will be available for anyone to watch after this recording. But ultimately, we're just really available to talk through any impacts, or if anyone just wants to chat about the consultation more broadly, we're here to help.
I would also add too, if there's anything else that people think we could be doing to help them prepare for this, please
Yes.
include that in your consultation submission. There's plenty of blank spots for more further comments. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thanks. We've got a question here about consultation and the changes. So will the changes undergo consultation with external stakeholders, such as the GBCA, banks, GRESB? Well,
So the public consultation is open to anyone to respond to. We have been doing like a lot of that sort of one-on-one engagement has been with, building owners, industry bodies like the GBCA, for example, and we're trying to cast the net really wide so we can get as much feedback as we possibly can in this consultation paper. But it is public, so anyone can respond.
thanks. We're just getting a few more questions coming through.
Right.
Wondering if this one's been addressed already, but I'll ask it. How will energy content be determined for non-grid sources such as on-site solar and batteries?
So in terms of on-site solar, that's the like the OWAG question that came up before. So there's this sort of outside of this consultation, but our understanding is right now that it will be treated the same.
And we've got one maybe a bit technical, but I'll ask it. How should the overall grid efficiency and implications be considered? By using CO2, this took into account the impact of efficiency in the grid. By using energy, that is only site-based. Or have they gotten it wrong?
I might throw that to Magley. I feel like I have afternoon brain.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question is here. Like it feels like this is slightly linked to time of use as well, because that's sort of the efficiency of the grid and carbon emissions. So, Paul, maybe we might take that one on notice, because I'm not quite sure exactly, or if you wanted to try reframe that one. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I quite have an answer on that one.
And we've got another question here, and it relates to diesel. So as a follow-up, what about diesel usage for demand response, promoting more renewables in the grid? Shouldn't diesel usage in those cases not bring down neighbors?
So, this would be part of our exploration into time of use and energy flexibility. So it's outside of the scope for this particular consultation, but it is, not just use of diesel, but also use of on-site batteries and things like that too, that we're hearing about from stakeholders that we are working through as part of our research into energy flexibility and time of use, like how best neighbors can operate in that space. So yeah, it is definitely something that's being considered, but it's not part of the scope of this current consultation.
And we've got another one. So it's about the buildings. What about small buildings?
That is a good question. That's come up quite a lot, actually. So in terms of how this affects smaller buildings, it kind of doesn't. Our calculation or our algorithms, I should say, already take in smaller buildings into account. So that change doesn't really impact like a particular size of building more than it does another size of building. However, we do need to make sure that these resources that we have already available are being used by smaller building owners to understand these changes, especially for those that aren't already engaged with us. So we are engaging with assessors, making sure those prediction tools are available and, making all the resources available online. So on top of that, again, we're here to help. And, if there's anyone that you think that we should speak to or any resources that you think we should create to help smaller building owners understand the change, please get in touch with us.
And we've got one more, and then that might give everyone else a chance to shoot any other questions through. We've got a change related to the CBD. So will the change try to align with the CBD expansion proposal or MEPS?
I'm happy to answer that. So, I mean, I think these are two quite separate things. That being said, like anytime we propose making any changes to the NABERS tool, we work very closely with the Commonwealth. So we have been consulting with them as well about this proposed change, and they're fully across what the recommended update is. But it's not being done to align in particular with the CBD or minimum energy performance standards.
Thanks. So that's actually all the questions that have come through for now. So
Amazing. Well, if anyone thinks of anything else, just email us. As I said, we're here to help and we're here to answer questions. So just shoot them through to us. I might start to wrap us up then. Firstly, I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone attending today. It's just really great to see you all so engaged. Really appreciate your attendance. As much as it scares me, we are only a handful away from the end of the year, which is quite terrifying. Um, just some kind of like housekeeping, some things to look out for on the NABERS side of things. We do have our NABERS API launch on the 4th of December coming up, which is really fantastic. Keep an eye out for that. There is a webinar. If you have any ratings that need guaranteed certification this side of the year, get them into us by the 8th of December. And then, of course, back to our consultation paper, a reminder that the consultation closes 5 p.m. on the 12th of December. Please help us by sharing the paper around. If you have any questions, just get in touch with us. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today and have a lovely afternoon, everyone.